I personally think Softeon, because of our heritage and how we were built and how we have a current technology set that is cloud-based, and then bringing in some advanced tool sets, we're just further down that road than anybody else. So I think it's a fantastic opportunity for Softeon, honestly. So as we understand it, as most people probably understand it, if you've got a bunch of facilities deployed on WM, in the next year and 27, they're end of lifing. They're not going to do any more, fixes, break fixes, support. You can get third-party support. And, honestly, look, we know that most of these systems don't ever die. So there'll be some third-party support out there for a long time. But strategically, from an operational compliance perspective, from being in a position to move your organization forward, there's going to be thousands of companies kind of popping their heads up and saying, now do I do? And is there something better to do than, what was always done in the past? And, I think that we offer something better.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that's really unique about us is with our one WMS approach, right? Someone might think, oh, I'm too small of an operation to think about, a separate WMS provider. And I think we give people from a small 35, 40 user site, manual, all the way up to a highly automated, all kinds of stuff going on, where one platform allows you to scale upwardly like that. And, without having to switch between, if you're, doing this, you're going to be on this, but this only gets you to this many users or non-automation and things like that. And you can then take another step. And so that's an important thing, because I think that, sometimes when people think, I got to get it's going to be like $3 trillion, blah, blah, blah. If you're a small operation with simple needs, you should be able to slot into something, like us pretty quickly. And then if you're growing, then you don't have to have the growing pains of well, that's only going to get you, a year or two, and then I'm going to switch to another vendor because, that. So I think that.
Or I got to put all my small sites on this vendor, my bigger sites on this vendor. Yeah, those days are past, right? So we do have that ability to scale, from small sites all the way up. And then I think a big, part of the original value proposition for SAP WM back in the day was, it was integrated. The data was integrated, and the communication back and forth with an ERP system was problematic. Let's face it. If you go back, 3 decades or whatever, that was a challenge. But that's past. The ability to move data around and collaborate, and people have done integrations so many ways to Sunday now that all of those hooks and the technologies for moving the data back and forth, that's not an inhibitor.
Yeah.
But it was. I mean, remember back in the day.
Yeah, when we first did that SAP integration back in the day, the SAP side was saying, hey, look, once it gets to this spot, when we get this far, we're just going to ship it. And Jim stands up at the beginning, in front of the room, and said, wait a second. What you're telling me is I can go and I can order something, and then at 3 o'clock, I can cancel it. And I can do that every single day. And I'm going to get a new free PC every single day as long as I keep doing that.
Yep.
And the guys are like, yeah, that would work. So there was not really a great.
Yeah, that was a bit of a hole, a weakness in the integration philosophy.
You were pointing out was that, hey, we should probably tighten that part up a little bit, because somebody's going to discover that, right? And then they're going to get free PCs, for.
Yep. And we did. That. So
I mean, that's a good example of back in the day when, integration was, in its infancy. Now there's great integration tools, our software has them, but there's, external integration tools and things to do that better. So a lot of that stuff is a lot easier to do. And actually, IT groups as organizations really have a much more integration first approach, really, because they know that they're integrating to a lot of systems, and they have an integration framework that they might actually use just talking to themselves, right? And anyway, because that's just the way their data flows.
They're good at it. So they've eliminated that hurdle. So now when you eliminate that hurdle, now it comes down to, is WM or EWM. So the move will be, well, maybe I should just, migrate to EWM, which is a massive, if you read anything about it, is a massive undertaking. So now it really becomes analogous to just going out and looking at the market and deciding what vendor solves my problems maybe better.
Yeah.
And, I think that we provide some really compelling arguments for, as you said, scaling up and down, the integration's not an issue, more ability to deal with any kind of automation, different subsystems. This is our focus. We're 100% focused on WMS.
And tuning things a little bit more if you want to, because the SAP world, you're very limited to what you could do unless you employed a whole cadre of developers during that process, right? So you're limited, and so that enablement portion that we have allows you to do some tuning in there that would be completely new ability, right? And that new ability that might allow you to do things in your operation, more streamlined, that kind of stuff, right?
I think it's one, to me, the SAP WM and what you do as a user of that it's a very strategic question. And,
Yeah.
I encourage everybody to get out there if you're on that platform and start to really do an evaluation because, time is ticking. So you don't want to wait till the end of it. But it's a discontinuity that is really happening all around us with our competitors. So each of them have multiple platforms. They've announced some of them are sunsetting. Maybe they're in the market with them. Maybe they're in the market with, oh, this is my new platform. If you're, maybe a big customer, or if you're a smaller customer, you can use this old one. It's like,
Yeah.
what?
Exactly.
What? You're selling me a used car? So I think it's there's an interesting dynamic right now where the last 20 years has been, maybe SAP and a couple, three big competitors they've just been the dominant players in that market. But I don't think that's the way it's going to be the next 20 years because each of them are in this migration of customers are beginning this migration from legacy customers, many of them deployed. And, we're already cloud-based and have just completely advanced philosophy on how we deal with these operations to pull people forward. So to me, I just am thrilled to be at this spot.
Well, it kind of
Shows I'm like one of the luckiest people on the planet because,
you are.
found myself here a couple of years ago and got you on and got everybody else to come join the.
Yeah, that was one of the things that you and I spent a bit of time talking about when you first proposed this idea to me was like, where we are as an organization, because I viewed the WMS space as really lacking historically in creativity about where to go next. And so what happened is they would say, okay, we're going to solve this problem by creating a new product, right? Not by just being better at what they did, right? But create a new product as if that alone is going to solve their problems. The nice thing about us being already cloud first is we can make those changes, so and not create big discontinuities. Integrating tech that we brought with my company in there allows us to pull all that stuff together. And so our conversation was about where do we want to be, and I said, hey, look, I'm not just interested in like the next step. I'm looking at the next several steps beyond that. More automation, more flows, considering human cobots and cobots with humans and things like that. So I think that to me was really the compelling reason that I came across. And so when we see somebody wanting to come from an SAP background, they could start with something simple, right? But they have all the technology that we're integrating from my old business, but also we've got a 20-year track record of having some of the smartest WMS guys in the industry sort of pushing all that stuff forward. So yeah, it's a great combo.
It is a great combo. And, I do think for SAP WM customers, maybe a little bit uniquely, there's more opportunity. There's more productivity opportunity, operational opportunity, because, WM was not ever a full-fledged WMS by itself, right?
Yeah.
So it was a module for based off an ERP. It does not give us that same level of productivity that a WM a WMS vendor would have given you.
Right. But I think it's important to say that, yes, a customer could come and say, look, this is a transformational moment, right? We want to make that, and that's great. But sometimes it's more of a, you can't always think about it as, sometimes it's a tactical thing, right? We have to make a change, but you want to you want to sort of get yourself over to a platform that allows you to move forward, and then you can make those transformational movements, right? And so I think that, you know, sometimes people get frozen in that, oh, it's this big transformational moment, and like, how do I navigate that? Sometimes if you choose the right vendor, you can make the tactical move now, and then, again, with our one WMS platform, you can make the transformation now. You're all set up for the future. You don't have to treat it as like, oh, I got to do all this stuff to switch over. You can treat it as a two-step. Let's solve the tactical problem about getting onto this platform, onto a good platform that we can move forward, and then plot out the next steps, right? You can do it more pragmatically, I think.
Yep. One of the interesting things, about our when we talk to the, companies that are evaluating other platforms is change management, and some of the enablement tools that we bring, and how, that part of any WMS project is always, has high risk with it. And we have, part of our approach is helping to mitigate change management. You guys want to just talk a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, I've been doing projects for the last 20 years, right? And change management is one of the bigger things that, happens. And if you think about when customers ask us, hey, how long does it, take you to do an implementation? And to which I say, hey, look, it can be 3 or 4 months or a year, that's a change management question, right? Is how does your organization deal with change management? Now, we are the experts in doing this, so our role at this is to coach you through that process, to say, look, we're going to help you with a framework that we've developed that allows us to ask all the right questions in a way that allows us to have multiple iterations, because sometimes you have to ask the same question over and over again to different people. Get all the right people in the room is not always, a one-time event. So, I think that iterative approach to asking the questions, dealing with change management, and then getting a solution that is right for the operation. I think of it this way, like, we should be asking the operations to be the best version of it. The operation should be asking us to be the best version of us. And so that combination is the important thing that we're trying to achieve during the change management process, in essence.
If you ask me to summarize or kind of give you the highlights of the point we're at right now in the market, is I think there's it's a once in a, or maybe it's a twice in a lifetime opportunity where major vendors have all created a discontinuity in their customer bases, most of which have to move from like a deployed architecture to a cloud-based architecture. So that's a whole, change coming, a whole sea of change coming. Then on top of it, you have all this infusion of automation, subsystems, technology that people are trying to consume, get to the floor, which puts stress on a traditional thought process of what a solution is, because the boundaries of the solution have to become a little less crisp so that you can kind of pull together collaborative workflows. So when I look at it, I think we're really in a transition from a previous world to a new world of how these solutions are all put together. I personally think Softeon, because of our heritage and how we were built and how we have a current technology set that is cloud-based, and then bringing in, some advanced tool sets, we're just further down that road than anybody else. So I look at it as an opportunity for us to really demonstrate our value, whether it's, you ascribe value to being more adaptable, to getting more productivity, to getting more, scale of your processes across multiple clients. There's all these different dimensions, and I think we can demonstrate the ability to do that better than anybody at this point.